mountain, gotta reach for the sky. If you want it, fight for it, or kiss it goodbye. It's make it or break it, try to survive.
He's Tim. I'm Ronnie. All the good names are taken podcast. Tim, first time live.
Yep. I'm scared. I'm nervous.
Don't be nervous. There's not going to be anybody there anyway. So me and Tim the other night for October, for 31 days content for members, did a watch along with Return of the Living Dead. And as soon as the date popped up, Tim goes, hey, that's tomorrow. Or was it 2 days, Tim? Maybe in 2 days. We should do something. And I was like, okay, we probably should, because Return of the Living Dead is one of my favorite movies of all time. So we put that plan into motion. And of course, today I asked Blake and he told me no. So since Tim's watched the movie, this is actually a movie we could bring Tim in on and have him give a little bit of thoughts. But at the same time, today was also a huge day, Tim, because I'm a huge Beverly Hills Cop fan.
Right.
I love Beverly Hills Cop 1. Beverly Hills Cop 2 is my favorite. Of course, everybody craps all over Beverly Hills Cop 3.
You know, I don't know if I've seen 3. I honestly don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah, 3's where they go to Wonder World, Disney World. And am I a expert with everybody's name in these movies? No, I'm not. But I do know that I love Beverly Hills Cop 2, and I wanted to see Beverly Hills Cop 4. So today I got up early, went into the little side room, and I watched it, and immediately I wanted to talk about it. So I decided we're going to go live, Tim. We're live on YouTube, we're live on X, and we're live on Rumble. So for everybody watching out there, hit us with any comments, questions that you have. We're going to start with Beverly Hills Cop, Tim, and then we'll work our way towards Return of the Living Dead. So for all the horror fans that are here to hear us talk about Return of the Living Dead first, it's going to be a little bit, because I want to talk about Axel Foley.
I got a question about Axel Foley before you get started. Go ahead.
Hit me with it. Go ahead, because I got to pull up IMDb to get these names.
Is Eddie Murphy still funny?
Eddie Murphy's
with not being funny, doing the voice of Donkey, right? Like he could be in a million Shreks and he sounds like $1,000,000 because he's not floating Shrek. You know, he's just he's an important part, but whatever. Is he still funny? Man, I'll see an interview with this guy because I'll be shot before I watch Back to America. What was the Coming to America?
Coming to America 2. I've never seen it. I love the first movie so much. I refuse to watch the second one.
I will never ruin the first one by watching the second one. And every time I see Eddie Murphy in an interview, he kind of, you know how Harrison Ford sucks whenever he does an interview? Like it's his job just to be a bastard. Eddie Murphy he doesn't suck. But man, it's just not the dude from, Beverly Hills Cop. It's not the dude from Trading Places or any of that stuff.
Well, here's the deal on that. The Eddie Murphy from Beverly Hills Cop, the Eddie Murphy from 48 Hours, the Eddie Murphy from Beverly Hills Cop 2 is the Eddie Murphy that didn't sell out. He wasn't fully Hollywood by that point, so he still worked his stand-up attitude into all his movies. But once he became legit, once all these box office blockbusters started happening, you saw him start to, play more character roles.
He's got a whole bunch of crap movies before Disney came calling.
Well, here's the deal. I thought his last, which I love, the movie with him and Steve Martin. I couldn't think of the name of it the other day when me and you were talking about it. Bowfinger. I liked that movie. Went to the movie theater and saw that. Maybe his last movie that made me just laugh out loud with the characters was the first Clumps movie where they're all sitting around the table eating. I thought that was funny.
See, I like that, and the Dr. Dolittle and Pluto Nash. Dude fell hard.
Yeah,
it was bad.
Yeah, but it was all $20 million paydays for every time he fell hard, though. So you got to think he's got a ton of money. Let's check.
He just doesn't seem like the same guy.
Bud says Beverly Hills Cop 4 is a lot of fun. I would agree. Going to get to it. Ryan Underwood, Tim, you go to the gym every day. Look at Ryan Underwood in this picture, jacked. 3 was okay, but the first 2 were great. And going to try to get a watch in for 4 after I come back from the cruise. We're heading out Sunday. Have fun on the cruise, wherever y'all are going. Oh, I guess I should mention this, Tim. If you don't want any spoilers on Beverly Hills Cop 4, now is a great time.
No, we're good. I'm not going to watch Beverly Hills Cop 4. It's not going to happen.
Now's a great time.
I got too much coming down the pipe because I never watch TV. I've got to start watching The Boys. I've got all these other shows, man. I'll never get to it.
It's an hour and a half. I mean, anyway, let's get to it, Tim.
All right.
I made a little PowerPoint because the art of pirating is amazing. So, okay, let me bring it back. Like I said, last warning, if you don't want any kind of spoilers, beat it.
Spoiler alert.
Tim, I don't know about you, but I'm easily influenced by what some negative people may say. So I've avoided YouTube and Twitter all day for people that might be complaining, moaning, griping about how Beverly Hills Cop 4 was. I don't know what the reception is. I'm just going to tell my initial thoughts after watching this movie one time.
Okay.
All right. I will openly admit part 3 was disappointing to me. Mm-hmm. And I will say that the everybody was all fired up after the trailer for Beverly Hills Cop 4. I watched it like one time, and I remember thinking, man, Rosewood's face looks amazing. Like they've really hatchet that guy. Somebody took a hatchet to his face. He looks awful. Okay. So I went in worried about that. I went in worried that they were going to rehash past.
He's Fast Times guy, right?
Yeah, it's the Fast Times guy.
All right.
I went in thinking they would do the banana in the tailpipe. I went in thinking that, it would just be all the old jokes, all the best scenes from part 1 and 2, and it would be a big nostalgia thing. And they went completely the other way. Now, did we have a bunch of that? Yeah, but it wasn't as much as I thought. Okay. So, I mean, I'm not a big fan of calling it Beverly Hills Cop Axel Foley, but I am. It doesn't totally bother me if that's makes.
At least they kept the aesthetic. Like it all looks the same.
And they start these movies, Tim.
Speaking, yeah.
They always start these movies in Detroit, and even with the last movie, I remember watching the previews for part 3 and seeing him with some young white guy that wasn't Rosewood or Taggart. And I was like, who the hell is that guy? And then you find out that's just his white partner or white cop buddy in Detroit for the first 10 minutes of the movie to get it all started. Mm-hmm. They sort of did the same thing in this one right here. Now, right off the bat, one of the huge problems that I had with this movie is Axel Foley has not done any kind of like improvement on his life since part 1. The first negative I have, and I guess it shouldn't be a negative, he's driving his old piece of crap car from the original that looks 1,000 times better in this one than it did in the previous movies. And I'll get to the slide here in a minute, he's still living in the same rundown apartment building. Okay. So
nothing has changed. It's been a depressing 20, 30 years.
He's been a cop for 40 years, and he still lives in the same shitty apartment building. It looks like right in the middle of a war zone. And if they manage to do one thing at the beginning of this movie, Tim, is to show you that Detroit is dead. Like they showed the 3 buildings in Detroit that are still up and running. If
you're going to film on location in Detroit, you're going to have to be honest.
So, really quickly, we got 12 people running on YouTube right now, Tim. Not bad for a live stream, but we've got over 25 people watching between Twitter and Rumble. So everybody on Twitter and Rumble, be sure if you find anything that we say that you don't agree with or agree with, message, comment, all that good stuff. Ryan Underwood says, you can't spoil a laugh. It's not like telling me that some kid was going to give Michael Myers Sweet Chin music and steal his mask. That would be a spoiler. Well, thinking back about it, Ryan, I'm not sure there's any like, oh crap moments in this movie, because it pretty much follows 1 and 2 and even 3's plot. Something happens at the beginning, leads him to Beverly Hills, and immediately the bad guy is like, hey, I'm the bad guy. Kiss my ass if you can try to catch me. So, I mean, there's really, if you've seen the trailer, there's really not a lot to give away except the whole movie.
If I'd known Ryan was going to be in here, I would have bought in some dumbbells or something.
Just been flexing the whole time, like just.
I don't feel good about this.
I can't see the picture very well, but he looks jacked. I wonder if you could beat him in arm wrestling, Tim.
Well, no doubt, but aesthetically, he might look a little bit bigger.
So we get the first look at Eddie Murphy, and I think the better question, Tim, is not is Eddie Murphy still funny? Because I think Eddie Murphy, like the Hulkster, can dig down deep and find that old humor from time to time. Like he finds that racial humor multiple times in this movie that gives you a laugh. He looks sort of like doughy and claymation-y, if that makes sense. Ryan says he's at the gym now, Tim.
Well, he needs to be. His pecs are looking a little flat.
So we get Foley driving
that phone and hit it.
We get Foley driving through. He's driving through. We're getting to see all the scumbags in Detroit.
Has he had plastic surgery?
He's had plastic surgery, it looks like, or either they did some kind of like.
Because he doesn't look unnatural, but he also looks kind of,
yeah.
He looks like a young old guy. If that,
yeah, I know. I mean, I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, without a doubt, I know. And let me pull this up real quick, Tim. I've got to download it, but it's out. It's actually it's not what I'm looking for. I've got 2 clips. I figured it wouldn't take us off the air, but I'll get to those in a second. Anyway, he's driving around. And the movie starts off. The first big thing is we get this white guy with the bad hairline. We're at a hockey game. He's using this white guy right here, Tim, because he's on a case and he knows there's going to be people trying to rob the Detroit Red Wings locker room during this game.
Okay.
All right.
So it's like sudden death with Van Damme, but he can't be associated with this case anymore. So he accepts these tickets from his from a buddy of his at the station, acts like he's going there, and he's going to pin every bit of the arrest on this guy right here, like he's a super cop to get him. So they do the "you're kicked from the case" gimmick.
Yeah, I mean
he's been a cop. Is he not like the highest ranking cop on the force at this point?
From what I can tell,
he's a hero.
He's exactly in the same space he was 40 years ago. He's a detective. I mean, that's all it is, Detective Foley.
I don't need it all to make sense, but you gotta work with me a little bit.
They did a good job of not showing Eddie Murphy run in this movie. I don't know how old Eddie Murphy is. I'm gonna look it up real quick. Eddie Murphy.
I'm sure he runs like Steven Seagal.
Eddie Murphy was born in 61. So what's that make him, Tim? 63 years old.
Yeah.
Which is not totally terrible as far as, I mean, you got older guys than that in action movies, but you're used to seeing Eddie Murphy get a little bit physical in these movies. It doesn't show him run that much. You got your obligatory chase scene at the beginning of this movie, but there's also a scene to show you
those cool stunt doubles where you're like, holy crap, that totally wasn't Eddie Murphy. I'm not saying where they used one, but where you can see it.
It's not like I'm going to get you sucker, where every time you can tell it's a different person of a different race doing it every time the woman fights.
Got you.
But they did give you a scene at the very beginning of it to show you that Axel Foley has still got it.
Okay.
Easy.
So one more time, I'll back it up, Tim. Takes the gun out of the guy's hand.
Fucking joke. Easy.
I can live with that.
Yeah, that's the way I would always picture it if the creditors came to my house and they tried to draw a gun on me to get me to pay my water bill.
I'll never pay for this trash.
It's exactly like threat level Midnight Blake. Exactly like it. He can be in the chat, Tim, but he can't be here to help.
Right.
every Beverly Hills Cop has the chase scene at the very beginning of it. This one's no different. You find out that Paul Reiser is now the not the commissioner, but the chief at the station. He's like, Foley, you better not, blah, 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 rinse and repeat. But with great music, Tim. I mean, there's nothing like sad or anything about the very beginning of this movie, just action showing you that Foley has not changed, leads to Reiser telling him, hey, I am retiring. The chief, the police commissioner of the city pretty much told him, either I'll fire you or you retire, because they make the comment, they sort of modernize it, Tim, where Paul Reiser goes, they don't want swashbucklers as cops anymore. They want, oh man, I forgot the word. Social workers. That's it. They want social workers, not swashbucklers. So they brought that in.
They've been defunded. Can't afford his job anymore.
I love that they throw in this picture right here of Paul Reiser and Eddie Murphy when they, I guess, graduated the academy or whatever. And that's not even.
It's Eddie Murphy-esque.
It's Eddie Murphy from Coming to America. That's, I mean, it's not even. But anyway, that nostalgia crap, I loved it.
That's an awesome snakeskin turtleneck.
Well, with like anything that goes on in 2024, you had to wonder, how are they going to try to ruin this movie?
Mm-hmm.
Were they going to make Eddie Murphy take a backseat to a female character, make him look weak like they said they did Indiana Jones? None of that happened. I'm sure there's people out there, Tim, that are complaining about the daughter role in this movie, but it wasn't bad at all. We're introduced to, immediately we know what's going on here. It's Eddie Murphy's daughter. She is a lawyer in Beverly Hills. She takes on this case for this Hispanic guy who's supposedly a cop killer. She goes into court and says they're going to subpoena for the financial records of the cop that got killed. And immediately that leads to her being attacked in a garage, and Kevin Bacon and his Invisible Man get up right here.
Right. Hollow Man.
Yeah. Hollow Man. Thank you, Tim.
I've seen it. I've actually seen that one.
His Hollow Man get up telling her to get the hell out of here, and then they hang her off the side of a building. There for a second, I thought they were going to throw the car off the building, and it was going to be a situation where she was in the hospital, and that's the reason he has to come in.
How is that not falling off the building?
Because they was hooked to a tow truck, and the tow truck cable kept her suspended right there.
Good as Lord Byron.
Byron Weaver's here. Hey, Byron. If you're just stepping in, Byron, there's going to be major spoilers for Beverly Hills Cop if you don't want them.
This is the scene where Axel Foley dies. Right at the end of the movie. He gets, okay.
Then Rosewood, okay, we get the backstory on Billy Rosewood. He has been on a case. He feels like the department has let him down. He quit the Beverly Hills Police Department, and now he runs his own PI firm where he's trying to solve this case where this cop was killed. And he thinks there's like, what's the word I'm looking for, Tim? Where it's in-house. There's people inside. The crime was committed inside. There's dirty cops, I guess is what I'm looking for.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
Byron says, I wrote a new statement on your Halloween TV series video. I had my idea for a TV series about Halloween. Yeah, Byron, I read that. It was really good, man. It was a real good one. So Billy Rosewood calls Axel Foley and says, look, she's in deep over here.
He doesn't look that bad.
No, look, I'm going to tell you right now, that one scene that I got to see him in the trailer, he looks 1,000% better in this movie. I did not feel bad the way he was shot.
The trailer makes him look terrible. I thought, this is not.
Now, he's another guy that's really old. Let me pull it up on IMDb real quick. Is he older than Eddie Murphy?
Surely not.
Or is he one of these dickheads that don't have their info? I'm 20. No, it just got May 21st. They don't have a year.
Really?
Hold on.
It's like those chicks on Facebook. They won't tell you.
No, we're going to Google for this. Judge Reinhold age. $67 years old. Okay, so for 67 years old, he looks amazing.
Jesus Christ.
He looks amazing. Okay. Not to make you nervous or nothing, Tim, but we're up to 41 people in the chat across YouTube, X, and Rumble.
They want this movie ruined. They want to know everything that happens.
One thing that I was worried about is that they would crap all over the old characters, and they did not do that. They did not do that. Rosewood running his own. What was your Facebook comment, Tim?
I don't know what he's did. Can you block him?
I can.
Tell him to log in or do whatever he had to do tonight. What a piece of crap.
So here's the second part, Tim, of my biggest problem with the movie. Mm-hmm. That is the apartment building piece of crap, $200 a night.
You'd think his lawyer, Beverly Hills' daughter, would put him up or something.
Well, they're estranged, Tim. You find out later in the movie he hasn't talked to her in 5 years. And this might be another complaint people that's watched this movie has. Okay. It's that we don't really get an explanation to why his daughter, a good explanation to why his daughter is in Beverly Hills. He brings up when they finally talk that this gang in Detroit put a hit out on his wife and his family. And he sent them to Beverly Hills. And the daughter quickly says,
he's Beverly Hills cop.
Yeah. His daughter,
what do you mean?
His daughter quickly said, no, you sent us away after a divorce or something to that effect. So we never get a clear reason other than that why he sent them off to Beverly Hills.
This is probably one of those movies they wanted to cut a lot of exposition and get to the Beverly Hills cop stuff.
And I got no problem with that.
Yeah.
We didn't need like a deep-seated, backstory. Nick Push says, just finished watching. All I wanted from this movie was to feel like I'm seeing old friends again and it not be Beverly Hills Cop 3. And it delivered that, so I'm happy. Nick, I'm right on board with you. I'm extremely happy at the end of this movie. Brett Patrick, hi guys. It's hard for me to hear. I'm in a minor league baseball game. Hope you guys enjoyed the movie. It worked for me very much. I think that's sort of just Brett bragging about being in a minor league baseball game.
That's the best game to go to, is a minor league baseball game.
Why so?
Great. Because everything's not as expensive. You probably have fantastic seats, and it's a good time. It's a good time. I've always enjoyed it. I hate that the Jackson Braves are no longer a deal.
Well, it's too dangerous. So the fact that he lives in the old building, that was my last of my complaints, Tim. That's just it's kind of sad to think that Foley is right where he was in 1984.
He's frozen in time, and you feel bad for him the same way you felt bad for Rocky and Rocky 5.
Yeah, no, it's not that bad. He's not back to being retarded again. Like Rocky was retarded, Rocky 1 and Rocky 2.
What is this cop car? You're not running anybody down with that. That's ridiculous.
He got money in part 3 and 4, and Rocky was okay. And then he lost his money and went back to being retarded. So the moral of that story is, as long as you got money, people are going to listen to you. But the minute you're broke, they don't give a shit what your opinion is. He's at a White Sox game. No, they did the gimmick, Tim, where as soon as Foley got into town, he goes to, now I guess I missed that picture, but he goes to Rosewood's office, and there's 2 guys in there, and he walks in like he's part of the crew. He's like, what the hell's going on? Y'all hurry up. And anyway, it leads to a chase scene, and the cops that are arresting him are 2 female cops, and they're in this tiny cop car that he can make fun of. So that was the gimmick, going back to the first one where he was like, hey, this is an extremely clean cop car. I had talked to Blake earlier in the day, and when I first started watching this, before Blake started having all his problems for the day, and I was like, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's in this movie. He's had one scene. He's Detective Bobby Abbott, and for some reason, I think he's going to be part of the bad guys, because why would Joseph Gordon-Green accept this role that's just a minor role? Has his career fallen off that much, or did they pay him that much money to be in this role? But about 10 minutes after that, it picks up with him, and he's in it pretty much the rest of the movie. So at one point I was like, they're going to throw a swerve at us for the first time in Beverly Hills Cop. And one of these close guys are going to be in on it because it's clearly obvious.
Inside job, right?
Yes, it's clearly obvious who the bad guy is, and it's an inside job. They don't try to hide anything. So I said, there's got to be a twist. There was no twist. This guy right here slept with Foley's daughter. So he does do one funny thing, Tim. He goes, I'm looking through your file, 84, 87, 94. You couldn't be too proud of that. And then they they threw some shade at Beverly Hills Cop 3, which I thought was pretty funny, acknowledging a lot of fans. And there it is there.
That's a good move.
We find out that
look at that hairline.
Yeah, it's drawn on, dog. We find out Taggart is the chief. And he does the old punch to the stomach gimmick with him. And like I said, right off the bat, you got Kevin Bacon right here. He's the bad guy. He can't hide it. I called my wife into the room to try to figure out, did he burn the skin off his face? Is he getting ready to be Freddy Krueger? What
Dude, he's the picture of health. He's Kevin Bacon.
But
his face has always been like, oh. I mean, he's,
Well, here's the deal.
Cut out all the carbs.
They explain why Taggart was retired in part 3, but he's back being the commissioner or the chief in this one. I always get those mixed up. He got back with his wife that he was always arguing with in part 1 and part 2 and decided he'd rather be back at work. So he is now the guy running things. This guy right here, apparently he's got big time history with Taggart. Taggart trained him up. That's the reason Taggart has so many problems throughout the movie, trying to, when they're trying to convince him that this guy's bad news. And Foley, right off the bat, he tries to do the gimmick where he lies to get upstairs to this club, and the guy smells his bullshit from a mile away. And like his daughter has to come in and pretend to be like one of the city counselors or something like that to get him up there. And pretty much Kevin Bacon says, look, we're just having fun. We're the same kind of people. But he doesn't admit to anything. But like I said, he's the bad guy.
You get it.
Bronson Pinchnoff's in this movie. He's all homoed up. It's a scene that really is.
Where can I get that shirt?
He actually, from this photo, he looks jacked. So
I know the shirt looks, I think it's the shirt. The shirt is great.
He's in it for a second just so they can get into a house that's next door where Kevin Bacon's running his operation. Kevin Bacon's got a bunch of guys that's working with the Hispanic gangs in town, and they're running cocaine. I mean, that's the bottom line. It turned out that Billy Rosewood had a camera in the dash of the car where the Hispanic gangster supposedly killed the cop. So there's video footage out there of the crime proving that the Hispanic guy was innocent. And it's also the reason that I didn't talk about Billy Rosewood gets taken hostage early in this movie, and it's pretty much just Eddie Murphy trying to find Billy.
I do respect the 80s. It's about cocaine cop story because that's what it all was back then.
Well, I had a clip, and I don't know whether to show it or not, but you know how in every Beverly Hills Cop movie they show Eddie rolling into town, and you get to look around at everybody and things like that. Well, this one makes us like we were so cool as a society in the 80s, and we didn't even know it. Like even the weirdos that they showed in Beverly Hills Cop and Beverly Hills Cop 2, even those weirdos are 1,000 times cooler than the people they showed. Like, I'm sure they showed a bunch of people that are supposed to be celebrities that I couldn't recognize, but the majority of the shots were people posing for Instagram pictures, walking around with dogs. It's just like the last scenes of a late stage Republic before everybody gets slaughtered. I mean, it's really lame at how far America has fallen.
Significant? Was it that crappy?
It was. Look, it was.
Where
pretty
you paused and was like, God, this is terrible.
I was like, what the shit? I mean, like, just let the asteroid hit now, because it's ridiculous. Because if that's what Beverly Hills is now, they should burn it. Okay. I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, it's in California, so it might burn by itself. I mean, they're just wildfires every other week.
This guy right here, whose name I forgot, he's the one that the cow eats his nuts in The Cowboy Way with Kiefer Sutherland and Woody Harrelson. He's like the uncle. He's like one of the guys over the big Hispanic cartel. And since they are helping, Foley's daughter is helping his nephew, he gives them the information at the dock where they're bringing in the drugs. So that was a pretty good scene. And here's pretty much where Kevin Bacon plants coke on him and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. They do a bust. They arrest him. He comes in to question him, and he rolls his pants leg up, Tim. And the best bad guys always have the stories that sort of make you think that they have a point. And Kevin Bacon has that. He rolls up his pants leg, and he says, I got shot in the leg, almost destroyed my femur, couldn't walk forever. And he goes, you know what I got? A ribbon. He said, I can't even afford to live in the city where I'm a police officer. He said, so yeah, I'm going to get what I need to survive. He goes, so he pretty much just says, I'm going to help these criminals and I'm going to make my money because I deserve it. Damn it. Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And I know I'm going through this all robotically, but I want to get through it. Joseph Gordon-Levitt in his file used to be a pilot. And Eddie Murphy asked him about it, and he says, don't ask about it. Eddie Murphy and them, when they escape from the police department, they run to the roof.
And they steal a helicopter.
And they steal a helicopter.
Which is great. That's pretty good. I'm down with that.
What's great about this, though, is he finds out that Joseph Gordon-Levitt has PTSD. He crashed a helicopter. That's the reason they took him off of air detail, because he can't even get into the cockpit anymore without having a panic attack. So this helicopter, after it gets off the building, it stays about 3 feet off the ground before he finally, crashes it. So it's pretty funny. I mean,
I'm down with that. That's a good Axel Foley face too.
Well, I mean, it's one of the fun scenes too. So once he gets in there, he's like, a bunch of F words. I didn't know this right here was going on, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they show Rosewood getting the shit beat out of him, but he won't tell them where the stuff is. They rescue him, and now is where Rosewood becomes like a caricature of himself, Tim.
Well, because how far in the movie are we right now?
We're final act, Tim. They have saved the end. Yeah, they've saved Rosewood.
So when Kevin Bacon is in the interrogation room with Eddie Murphy, he's coming clean about, I'm really the bad guy, blah, blah, blah. That's when all that comes out.
Yeah, and he really don't never say he's the bad guy as much as he says, dude, we're just exactly alike. Because Eddie Murphy makes the point of saying you got a $20,000 Rolex on your arm, you're wearing $1,000 shoes and stuff like that. And he goes, I earned it. So there's a scene that I can't find on here for some reason, Tim, and I'm looking. Give me just a second. But I guess we're just going to have to miss it. I put on there that Happy Gilmore Part 2 is in a lot of trouble.
Why?
Because, hold on, I got to find it. I don't know where it's at. There's a scene, and it's right before this, where they crash the helicopter into a golf course.
Mm-hmm.
And Christopher McDonald, Shooter McGavin, is there.
He's there?
Yeah, he's obviously, that's what they want people to think. That Shooter McGavin.
Shared universe?
I don't know.
Dude,
I don't know. But what makes me sad is they show Christopher McDonald walking, and he's got old man walk. And the first thing I thought was they're going to have to do some creative filming for Happy Gilmore 2 because he moves like he's 80 years old. So if they're going to do Happy Gilmore 2 and Shooter McGavin's going to be swinging that club, they're going to have to make sure there's no scenes where he's not running around or having to be very...
Happy Gilmore 2 may be a skip. That's an easy skip for me.
Really? I'm so nostalgic for Happy Gilmore and any kind of Adam Sandler movie.
Sandler lost me a long time ago, man.
You're talking to somebody that loves Grown Ups 1 and 2.
You made me watch Hubie Saves Halloween or whatever that was called.
Dude, Hubie Halloween is not that bad.
It's extremely terrible.
Hold on. Maybe I can find it. Hold on.
Shooter.
I'm telling you, dude, if I can find this, it's worth it because all I got is
old dude had on this Guns N' Roses. None of these actors changed. Do all the main characters wear the same thing the whole movie? Serious question.
Well, Rosewood is kidnapped right off the bat. So that's the reason he's got the same clothes on. He's been kidnapped and tortured. And, because he's got that USB that they're trying to find, or SD card. That's what it is. It's got the footage on it, and he won't tell. It's the reason they just didn't kill him. It's because they're trying to find that SD card so they can get away. So you got your chase scene. You got Kevin Bacon is calling and saying, hey, I got your daughter. There is a good scene in this movie, Tim, that I skipped over because you can't go over everything, where Foley looks at Taggart and goes, you should have had Rosewood's back. He goes, when he told you some weird shit was going on here, he said, because Kevin Bacon's dirty. And Taggart goes, Kevin Bacon's not dirty. I trained him. And he goes, are you involved in this? Is this what's going on? Are you protecting him because you're involved in all this shady shit? And, for a second, you're like, is Taggart involved in it? And he's like, and then that's when he gets off.
Which would, it might be a better, movie if that was the case. But you would absolutely enrage everyone who came to watch this for just an Axel F good time.
You're right. And one cool thing is they need to get some backup. So Foley starts running into cop cars and making them, it's like he's leading the line there, and then they all get bashed up. They get there, Tim, they run the truck through this huge mansion, shootout, and the shootout starts.
This guy looks really good.
Taggart and Rosewood have the same scene they had in part 1, or is it part 2? No, it's part 1 where they're sitting there getting shot at and they're talking about it. And Rosewood saying, I need an apology. He goes, I'm finna get killed for you, Billy. What more do you need? All right. A new name right here. Ernest Justice. Look at that cool photo right there. What is that?
Fantastic little avatar picture. It's like the Dark Knight, but.
He says Beverly Hills Cop 4 was a lot of fun. Thoroughly enjoyed it more than I was expecting.
Ernest, did you go into it expecting a lot?
I think everybody went into it expecting Beverly Hills Cop 3 or expecting everything else they've ruined when they try to remake it. And they didn't do that with this movie. They didn't do it. I mean, is it the best Beverly Hills Cop movie ever? No, but it's good. Foley takes a bullet for his daughter. Joseph Gordon-Levitt shoots Kevin Bacon in the head.
Oh!
And then at the end of it, this is the only time, because in some of these movies, you go back to Indiana Jones and things like that, they make a point of poking fun of how old they are, like with the whip scene when they did Indiana Jones 4. I don't know if you've seen it, Tim, but
I'm not ruining Indiana Jones watching that new stuff.
This is the only time when they mention his age. And she goes, you're moving around like a 65-year-old man. And he goes, well, I've got shot. And then, of course, the movie ends. For some reason, Taggart and Rosewood are watching the hospital, so he won't leave. He pops in the back seat and says, let's go get a steak. And they argue for a little bit, and they're like, screw it, let's go. What's the worst that can happen? We don't have much time left anyway. And boom, hit the music, Tim. Beverly Hills Cop 4. Really good movie.
It sounds good. It sounds like I might have to watch it. Like none of that looked super crappy. I mean,
I've watched it one time and I left there going, thank God they didn't ruin it. Like part 3, I was 14 years old and I was like, this is not a real Eddie Murphy.
No trilogy that went from the 80s and had the third one in the 90s worked out. Like, it was just a totally different thing, and none of that worked anymore.
Hey, Tim, we have a new live attendance record. It's not the Silver Dome, but we just crossed 50 people in this stream across YouTube, Rumble, and X. So thanks to everybody watching. Thanks to everybody that listened to that entire take that we had on Beverly Hills Cop 4. Overall, if I had to rate that movie, 6.5 out of 10. 6.5 out of 10. And, Joseph has a point. He says there's a horrible CGI effect on Bacon's face when he's shot. Let me bring this up, Joseph.
Noticeable?
Yeah. Joseph's not wrong, but one thing I noticed right off the bat that was going to be different with this movie than part 3 is it's pretty brutal in the fact that, Joseph Gordon-Levitt finally shows up. Like he does the scene where he's arresting Foley. You know, he's the guy that's got to take his information down. But the next time you see him, he's trailing Foley and his daughter, and he sees all the Hispanic gangmen finna ride up and blow. So he's like running a car, and he hops out of the car and he's shooting people in the face in the street in the middle of Beverly Hills. So you're automatically like, this is going to be one of those movies where they're just shooting people. There's a lot of cool shooting deaths in this movie. And Joseph is right. It was pretty noticeable, you know, CGI Kevin Bacon's head right there. But I'm okay with it. I'm okay. I really am with it. And Ernest says, I don't expect a lot from sequels this far into a franchise. Also, Netflix is notorious for being hit or miss. You're right.
The Netflix thing takes a lot of pressure off. I didn't even think about that. Because what do you got to lose? You didn't go anywhere. So you just, you know.
Yeah. But
not
overall,
as much room to get pissed off, I guess.
Well, I would have just been sad.
But if it's good, then you know.
If they would have made a joke out of Rosewood and Taggart, if they would have made, you know, you feel bad. Like some of these movies, they make you, oh man, our character's old now. As a movie watcher, you don't want to think like that.
Right. You don't want to see your heroes like
get old.
looking
No.
bad.
Yeah, you want them always to be awesome. Okay. And my thought process is always, if we can't make a movie where the character is in a better situation than the last movie, you know, at the end of it, why are we doing it? Because you don't want to depress everybody. It's like the original idea for Lethal Weapon 2. I love Lethal Weapon 2. But originally, Martin Riggs was going to die at the end of that movie with Murtaugh holding him, you know, surrounded by all that money.
So why didn't that happen? Mel Gibson just blew up, and they were like, we're not killing Mel Gibson.
Well, they probably did the damn test audience gimmick, and people are like, "You're killing off the best character in this marketable franchise." Well, I mean, what do you guys just don't want to make another 2 movies? Now that's the one that's gonna test everybody's, you know, like reasonability when they come out with Lethal Weapon 5 with Mel Gibson. Yes, Mel Gibson's gonna direct Lethal Weapon 5. And it's going to be, you know, you're like, ooh, what's going to happen there? Because those guys are old.
It has to be awesome. I'm going to say it's going to be awesome.
All right. You guys give me just a second. And we're going to move into the Return of the Living Dead portion of this stream. So everybody that was here strictly for Beverly Hills Cop, thank you for showing up. We had over 50 people in here. We really appreciate it. And for the people wanting to stick around for Return of the Living Dead, we're going to talk about it for a minute. I just got to find all the clips and stuff.
If you don't want spoilers for Return of the Living Dead, leave now.
If you don't want spoilers, please leave now. Okay. So, Tim, we watched it the other night, Return of the Living Dead, 1985. And I'm a big dork when it comes to this movie, and this is the second time you've heard this week. It's just a really good movie because it was like comfort food for me, and the fact that every time I went to the video store, I pretty much rented it. My family
favorite death in the movie. We didn't talk about that when we did the review.
My favorite death in Return of the Living Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's not really a lot of like deaths in that movie. You can run through all of them really quick if you wanted to. Like the first death in the movie is when the dude gets his suicide gets his head bit into.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then you've got the other punk who gets pulled outside into the rain, which may be the best one because you get to hear that zombie go, ah!
But I'm talking zombie deaths count in this movie because of the way these zombies operate. Because they can think and talk and all that stuff.
If zombie deaths count, when it comes to Return of the Living Dead,
mm-hmm.
then it's got to be the cadaver from the room that they, take the spike.
I agree. The head spike, and then they cut it into pieces. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love this movie. I told the story to Tim, and everybody hear it again in October. It's like one of the earliest memories for me, as messed up as it sounds. My parents did take me to this movie. I'm guessing because I was 4 or 5 years old. They didn't think I would have any memory of what happened in this movie.
And there's just so much titty in this movie.
There's a lot of nudity. I mean, they had to be thinking, well, it's the 80s. They didn't care about crap like that. So what I did, Tim, is, we've reviewed this movie before. And we've done last year, we did like our favorite something or another with it. So really, I just want to talk about my favorite key moments, if that makes sense, from this movie. And it's, I've got it broken down on my phone, which is why I'm looking at my phone real quick. So like the cold opening of this movie, and let's get it back set up. We're, the UNITA medical supply. And this has been all over X all day. People saying, hey, it's Return of the Living Dead Day.
Yeah.
And that's, really, I was like, man, we got a YouTube channel. And we talk about horror movies and we talk about regular movies. We should really get on there and talk about this. July 3rd, 1984, 40 years from this fictional event that would lead to like 20 square blocks of downtown Louisville getting blown up. All right. You need a medical supply. And
oh God, all the Louisville memes I've seen today. I didn't connect those dots. I just did just now. Continue.
The first thing I had as a reason I love this movie is the cold opening. The cold opening for this, and I hope we don't get kicked off, Tim, but I'm downloading it right now. But the cold opening of this movie is really good because you get these characters and it sets some tension and it sets some atmosphere with you got Bert to the right and you got Frank and Freddie over there to the left. I know you've seen the movie, and he's telling him all the ins and outs of this warehouse. He brings up about all these human skeletons.
These two guys are the entire movie. Like without those two guys, there's like nothing moves forward. So they show up at the beginning, and they're the impetus for everything that happens.
Yeah, they are there to like pretty much guide us along until all the chaos starts, and then the rest of the movie is just characters yelling and screaming at each other.
How smart is your audience? Like, can I say impetus and they understand what I'm talking? It's not a 5-syllable word.
They're gonna think stuff stays limp when you say words like that.
It does.
So the cold opening. Let me bring it up.
Hey, these things don't leak, do they?
So he takes him downstairs to show him these tanks after he gives him the big spiel about the army covering up this chemical that got all over a bunch of dead bodies and make them come to life. And they put them in these canisters and they shipped them off.
And they were misplaced and they just kept them. And I thought that was so weird.
Right on cue. Hooper's in the chat live from Australia. Want to know who you calling impotent?
Australians.
So
ain't no one standing tall down under.
He showed, dude, Paul Hogan, get out of here.
That's true.
Cut your nuts off.
Tism.
Anyway.
I just threw out that Tism reference for you, Hoops. I hope you get that.
Hey, these things don't leak, do they?
Leak? Hell no. These things were made by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
And like the comedic element of this, hell no, they don't leak. And then he taps it and it shoots in her face.
Oh, fuck!
It's just a great way to open a movie.
And then Top Gun, boom.
I mean, it's just a great way to open up a movie. It sets the tone for what's coming. We know the name of the movie is Return of the Living Dead. At the very beginning of it, they show us these canisters that the U.S. Army put these bodies into and sealed them, and somehow they got wrongly delivered to this weird warehouse in Louisville, Kentucky. Why do people need the crap that they're selling in the first place?
Look, super well done. How they go from the canisters to the gas to the air vents, to the rain, and how they show you, like they give you the visuals for all of this, and you don't understand it until you see it sinking down into the ground. But they give it to you visually, step by step, and it was well done. It's a sharp movie.
Now, for the 50 people watching, how much of this stuff has to get into your nose before it affects you, kills you, and turns you into a zombie? Because like Bert, Bert comes back into the warehouse, to read Frank and Freddie the Riot Act. I told you never to touch those tanks. And like, he never gets sick from this. I guess that Lysol that he sprayed.
Lysol will absolutely destroy anything.
And like that music playing, that's one of the reasons I love Return of the Living Dead. The music is awesome, and I'll get to more of that later. But the next thing, Tim, was the characters, like Frank and Freddie right here. You mentioned it. They make the movie so much that they brought them back as different characters in Return of the Living Dead Part 2. All right, that's how much of a fan favorite they were. Then you've got the punks, who we have no reason to like any of this Mod Squad group of people that are hanging out together. Chuck rocking the awesome boombox, by the way. So, I mean, then you got the two guys in the middle that looks like they should truly be hanging out. They look like punks. Then you got the chick that gets naked, and then you got the girl in the front that looks like she is the valedictorian or whatever, like Valley Girl, like she shouldn't be hanging out with this group of people.
That's always the way it is. You got to have them all represented in your group of kids.
And like, let's go to the general right here real quick. Maybe the biggest, yeah. These two are obviously representing the Reagans. Okay. So, I don't understand if it's an honor or if it's a curse that he's in charge of finding these tanks. He's obviously a general. I'm saying obviously a lot. He's a general. So is this his punishment for having to have all this stuff in his house to try to locate these tanks? Or is it like an honor because he's the one heading up the mission to try to find these missing Easter eggs, as he calls them?
I mean, I know you were talking, Ronnie. Pull that back up, please.
All right.
Look at how awesome that painting is back there.
What is that of?
Look at it. Is it? I thought it was like a futuristic thing at first, but it's not. And you've got, it's like, I don't know, ancient ruins. I don't know. I feel like it has meaning. Sorry.
So, he's the one at the end that they have to call. He's the hotline that, you call the hotline, they direct you straight to this general.
I think when you have a program like that, what you were saying earlier is once you're in charge, you have to stay in charge forever, right? Because it's hush hush. The more people you bring in, the more people know.
Very good point.
So they have these living dead specimens out there somewhere. He's in charge forever. Like, he's always going to be the call guy. Very,
very good point. I mean,
so they put him up in this nice place.
But back to the characters. Let me find it. Where's that? Back to the well real quick, Tim. Let me go find. It's just the characters. When you get characters like this in a movie, it's wild to see how they react to the craziest of situations.
And let me clarify what you said when you say characters. Like, everyone is extremely unique.
Yes.
Like there is no wasted casting because it's a horror movie. That's how it works. You got a group of people being killed. So you got a bunch of identical zombies, and then everyone else has to have a very specific role. And even like the kids who are like friends and they act similar and talk similar are extremely different in how they're affected by this and what they do during the zombie attack.
Yeah, like the manly.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, like it's they paid attention to make sure that happened. And that
here's the introduction of the punks.
Hey, we gonna party tonight or what?
Yeah, we are gonna party.
Well, where? Where are we gonna party?
I don't know, somewhere.
So, I mean, it's that simple. It was, and like I said, the music in this movie is just really, really. I mean, I'm scrolling through here trying to figure out what the next.
Does the music ever make you scared? No.
Yes, it does.
It's not. Is it that kind of music? Because all I remember are like the rock tracks that they would show up with.
What's going on, Jason? Y'all check out Jason's channel. He's reviewing the Delta Force, one of my favorite movies from Canon. Hope everything's going good. Hope you feel better, Jason. But there is stuff in this movie. There is stuff in this movie, Tim, the music, there is certain types of music that like holds the tension. All right. And I'm trying to find, I thought I had Tina walking over to the from the graveyard. I do. So like the atmosphere in this movie is kind of crazy. And I'm gonna go back to this picture real quick while this downloads, because the set pieces help this with the atmosphere. Like, look at this cemetery. They decide to, hang out at this cemetery until Freddie gets off in 2 hours, because Freddie always knows where the good parties are. So they're in this cemetery that shouldn't work, Tim. We talked about the other night. Headstones on top of headstones. It doesn't make a lot of sense. There would never be a cemetery that's set up this way.
1700s, 1800s, lots of diseases. You got to just pack them in.
But I mean, the lighting on this shot right here is amazing. And I'm a big mark when it comes to orange skies. I think this is one of maybe the best shot in the movie. I agree, Jason. The cemetery is awesome. Just that orange skies, the birds fly off as they play the music. I mean, there's just a ton of atmosphere, and just I think it's underrated. Some of the more quieter parts, like this one right here. This is just Tina walking from the cemetery over to where Freddie's supposed to be. See, this is like not the rock portion of the score, but it's the actual what word am I looking for, Tim? Score.
The ambiance soundtrack.
There you go. See, because we know what's happened. We know that Bert and Frank and Freddie are over with Ernie right now, trying to get him to burn up all these pieces of this cadaver, and we don't know what else is going to come out of here and grab her. So just for a short walk like this, it's really tense. I mean, just something that simple.
That was the best acting she did in the whole movie, by the way.
Yeah, you were not a big fan of Tina, and you did open up my eyes.
Dude, she can't cry, and she can't be scared. She's laughing the whole time.
She's not a very good. She's not a very good. For the 50 people over Rumble, X, and YouTube, hit the like button if you hadn't hit it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Why not? You're here right now. Subscribe. Tim, moving on. The chaos that happens after they wake up from passing out from this smoke. Things that are supposed to be dead all throughout the warehouse are alive. Yes, it doesn't make sense that the butterflies that are stuck to boards are, and all of a sudden now the wings are moving, and this half dog is barking. It doesn't make sense.
The half dog was great.
But
the half dog was fantastic.
It works. And what else works is these two guys are like the biggest, oh shit, what did we do? Because Bert comes in there and he reads them the riot act. We know about these tanks, Frank. Don't touch the damn tanks. And there's a scene. Let me back this back out of here. There's a scene where these guys are realizing what a huge screw up they have made. And they hear the cadaver, or they hear something coming from the cadaver room where, it's the big cooler room. And it's just one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And
they know exactly. Like, it's not a mystery. Like, it's not a suspenseful thing. Like, they get it.
They know what the hell's happening in there. First off, these guys play panicked and scared really well. The facial expressions, the trying to talk. Like, here in a minute, he's going to break out a word from the 40s. He sounds sore. I mean, he don't say he sounds pissed or he sounds angry. He breaks out old language.
And look at, the guy, what's the younger guy's name?
Freddie.
When he's dying, later on when they've contracted the zombie disease or whatever, like, the face is amazing. Like, the dude looks like he's in agony. He nails it. Anyway.
Cadaver! The cadaver! What you doing in there? I don't know. It sounds sore.
He woke up pissed.
What are we going to do? Lock it, yeah.
The yeah is what done it for me. Like, that's the greatest idea ever. Yeah.
This is great.
And I think that's the whole clip.
And before this scene, they had to like get worked up. Like they were just screaming at each other and had to, you don't just, start that on a dime.
Blake asked, this movie is remade. Who plays Bert?
Which one's Bert?
To the right, the guy from Hunter's Blood. And just, quick plug, me and Tim reviewed Hunter's Blood a million years ago. Go check it in the archives.
Brad Pitt
as
He's that
Bert.
age.
Holy crap, that might actually work.
He could wear that outfit.
Where's my notebook?
Straight up be Brad Pitt.
Dude, that actually may work.
It totally works.
Yes, because he plays the older guy.
And Brad Pitt doesn't even have to be the star in his movies anymore. He just takes these roles.
All right, so who would let's go down the list. Who would play Frank and Freddie right here? Could you go the comedy route? Well, not really comedy route, but
if you need somebody that can hit the comedy when necessary, like this guy, DeVito has to play.
Dude, you can't put DeVito in one as Freddie and Frank
if you're
right here.
Make a horror movie, then there's no reason to. Why would you not pull out all the stops? You're not going to have to pay him a ton. You got Brad Pitt.
You got Brad Pitt, and then the guy in the middle is going to be Danny DeVito.
DeVito could play this role. You'd have to have somebody older that can play comedy, but also worried and serious straight. So it's either DeVito or Jack Black.
But he's also got to be around a normal-sized human.
Really, not necessarily.
Okay, who would play the young guy? I'm just going to let you recast this whole thing since you've seen it.
Oh, I don't know. I don't see. I only watch movies when I'm doing ATG and AT, so I don't know any of the young people. Like I don't know who would play this guy.
Jason says the acting is played perfectly. They knew the tone and the humor they needed for the movie to work. You're absolutely right. And look, I know this is going to sound weird, but this horror movie might have the perfect mix of horror, action, comedy, where at no point does one overlap the other and ruin it, if that makes sense.
So let's compare that to something from Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah.
Like a creep show thing. That's going to be, this is more of a horror type movie than that. It's just a notch, like supposed to scare you a little bit more, where the other movies are going to like try to throw the style at you and just how slick it is and the comedy and all that. This is more on the horror side, even though there's, like you said, just enough camp.
Yeah.
Just enough camp.
Just enough to, so you're not like wanting to kill yourself because you're so scared.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the characters before we get back to the part about who's Tim recasting for all these roles. The characters were self-aware at how screwed up they were. I mean, check this out right here when they say, "Hey, let's go get Freddie," and the girlfriend's like, "No."
Like it's a statement.
Come on, let's go get the prick.
No, let's not. It might freak out his boss. Well, that's not nice.
Yeah, what does he think we are? Weird or something?
I mean, she knows she's in the car with a bunch of freaks, and if they walk over there, he could get fired.
Must be a small town, and those are the only people her age.
Louisville is not a small town. Louisville also looks worse than Detroit did in I almost said Back to the Future, and Beverly Hills Cop 4.
Louisville got a lot smaller at the end of this movie.
Ryan Underwood said there's a janitor lady at the Chevron plant I work at that looks just like Danny DeVito.
I need a pick. I want to see a lady that looks like Danny DeVito. That's about my speed.
Ryan, you have to get us a picture, and you have to send it to us either on our X account or Instagram. We've got to see this ugly bee. All right, so we're casting this young guy right now, Tim, before we move on.
Can we make him a free patron if he gets a video of him bench pressing her?
Look, Ryan Underwood's already a paying member. We don't want him to be, we don't want to give him anything for free.
Yeah.
Ruining this. We got 55 people watching. You're ruining it.
That's true. I'm all about handouts. I'm such a socialist.
It's a capitalist country like Bert's running right here.
No, I'm killing your bottom line. My bad.
Is it horrible that I want to say Michael Cera for this little dweeb role right here? I'm sure you can think of a better actor.
It would be no. See, you said Michael Cera, and I'm like, well, that would be the one young guy I know.
Or you could go with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but he's not young enough anymore.
They got to be a little blue collar. Like this dude is a working man. He's got the tank with the suspenders, which, like we said, he pulls off the look. Like I couldn't pull it off, but it's pretty sweet.
Ryan says, I'll do what I can. Vote Bernie. All right. So anyway, I can't remember what part I was at. Oh, okay. I know where I was at. So the characters, they know they're all screwed up. They know that, bad shit's happening, but Bert feels like he can really Bert spends the rest of the time until it really gets bad trying to cover up as much of this as he can. All right. And he goes, now what the hell's happening in this room right here? And he goes, it's the cadaver. So you got the scene where the cadaver, they're going to try to get rid of this cadaver, which I don't know. Let me see if I've got it. Surely.
It's the movie is all killer, no filler. On the horror movies that we watch that I don't like, there's like 30, 40 minutes where it's just they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? Like people are dying and everything's a mystery. It's not like that in this movie. They understand extremely quickly it's zombies. And that's it. Like the rest of the movie is we're dealing with zombies.
All right. So I don't know, Tim, if me and you were working in this warehouse right here, and I'm sorry for everybody watching if it seems like I'm like for the first time ever, I just left all the files.
If we worked in this warehouse, would we have as many pictures of naked women hanging up? Because there's a lot in this movie.
If it's 1985, yes, because you brought up that point the other night. Apparently, it's not that bad to have all that stuff going on.
It's in a lot of scenes.
But if me and you are playing the role of Frank and Freddie, and we just got blasted with that smoke, and we feel like crap, and our boss is reaming us, and the first thing he wants to do is let that thing out of there, I'm like, no, absolutely not. But I do like the fact that they thought about a plan. They were like, okay, so what happened in the movie? They destroyed the brain, right? And destroyed the brain kills the zombies.
Yeah.
Because Bert even asked, he goes, are you sure that guy's dead? And he goes, open the door and find out, So when he comes running out there, it's one of the best scenes in the movie. One, because there's a yellow man running. That's ridiculous. But that's so
what made that dead so great. It's so stupid looking.
It's so stupid looking, but like I've said a million times already since we started talking about Return of the Living Dead, it works.
Yeah, no, it's dumb, but it's great. Boom.
And then they're expecting it to die, and all that happens is it starts screaming louder. At that point, you're like, holy crap, what do we do?
Dude, if we're the two guys holding that thing down, like, I don't know if I'm touching that thing.
So, I mean, it's great. It really is. It really is. And I don't know if I'm not man enough to be able to take, I don't care. Well, I guess that's the reason Bert did everything, because it's his business on the line. He had no problem grabbing a saw and cutting that thing apart, piece by piece by piece, because he's trying to save his family business. So I guess, you could go with that. So there is a couple of scenes throughout the movie. They burn him up. They burn him up with Ernie, the mortician. And let me go back to my list right here, because the dialogue in the movie.
Mortician is a great character. Mortician,
yeah, he is. He is, and he's also got one of the pivotal plot points in the movie where they're up in the ceiling, and you think he may shoot that girl in the head to throw down there to the zombie to try to save himself.
You also think multiple times that he might get creepy, but he never does. Never does.
So I didn't expect the big suicide guy to be the first one to die. You know, we talked about the deaths in this movie, and yes, I know it's tough for a zombie to bite through a skull, but look, you got to suspend some, you got to suspend some disbelief when you're watching a zombie movie, okay?
Dude,
In
crazy
real
people
life,
are strong, man. If you lose a lot of your senses, but you're still functional, you can lift a truck.
like you get a couple of good zombies in this movie. You got the Tar Man right here. You've got I'm counting the cadaver, Tim, as one of the bigger zombies in the movie. You got the naked old lady that they pull in, and then of course you've got the redhead that gets killed, but then it rains again, so the rain turns her into a zombie.
Yeah,
she
the
comes
Mystique
back.
David Bowie look.
Yeah, so there's a lot of cool looking zombies. Like I said, there's Ernie right there. They have to walk across and try to butter him up to use the crematorium. And there, of course, is one of the, the first time in a zombie movie where they capture a zombie and actually question it. And Tim brought up a good point the other night when we were, doing a play-by-play for this movie. Actually sort of baby-faced the zombies, Tim.
If you give them personality, they're going to have a backstory, right?
Yeah.
And it's a decent explanation for why do they do what they do.
Let's see. The paramedics show up, which is always good. Let me get that clip pulled up. The paramedics show up, and you get the whole scene where they're like, this person's got room temperature. But the things I want to talk about, Tim, I want to talk about the cold opening. We've talked about that ad nauseum. I want to talk about the characters. We've talked about that ad nauseum. I will get to the music because Do You Want to Party? Obviously, that's the song everybody remembers. The dialogue in this movie, we talked about that at the beginning of it. It was really good. There's a lot of ridiculous dialogue with them screaming and cussing at each other, but the very beginning of it, they do a good job of setting the tone with some serious dialogue. The humor in this movie is great, even in bad scenes, or I guess I should say horror. The horror themed scenes, the comedy is good, and then the kills. Like we said, we've got the main guy, suicide, Mark Venturini, who was on The Price is Right. He gets his head bit. Scuds gets pulled out and gets his head bit. And
when
then
they keep setting the traps and
yes,
they keep calling for more paramedics and more cops, that's good. You talked about the dialogue being good. Who had the best dialogue after they split up into their groups? You had Ty Boombox guy with the blue windsuit chick. They were split off in a twosome. They didn't get a lot of screen time, but they were together. You had the main group that they were with the mortician. So you got the mortician and the three guys from the medical supply place. They were together.
It's going to have to be them because they're.
And then the black guy joins them.
Yeah.
And they do pretty good.
Well, he has no problem after his buddy gets eat. He joins in as the third leg with Frank and Ernie. He's like, I'm with you guys. All right. And they lock, the chick loses her mind because she wants to be with Freddie, and they lock them up in the chapel. Well,
then you have all the kids together in the cemetery and their dialogue.
Well, that dialogue's like some of the most ridiculous. You get suicides.
The best is the opening scenes, I guess, where it's just the three dudes and yeah.
Yeah, that's the most serious. Frank's in the chat. What's going on, Frank? Who wanted to push your nipples in the torso? Don't lie. Frank, come on, man. Edit.
That's a great reference.
Now, here's some kills that I thought were pretty good, like the paramedic. I mean, if you don't, like I said, you got to suspend disbelief for when he cuts the lights on and you see the people with mud on them. But when the zombies come in the door on him, it's pretty cool. Jerry, I mean, did somebody just get killed? So that scene, and there's another one that I'm downloading right now that when Ernie goes out to check on everybody and he finds the midget that is eating the brains of one of the paramedics, and then the guy slips on the way in. One of my best scenes. I don't know why. I love the fact that they kept it in there. That's just great.
No, this is great. Great vision.
He getting up. Watch this right here. Whoa.
What?
Tim, would you run from a midget zombie?
Oh, I would run from any zombie. Any zombie. I'm not going to slow down because I feel like they can't move as quick. I'm not going to take any chances.
And I'm going to go ahead and pull this one up because we're going to wrap this up. You know, we talked about the music in this movie, and I tried to hit you with that early the other night. And then finally you were like, okay, the music is pretty good. This scene in the cemetery, like I said, got to throw out disbelief. And they
That's
just
great. That's
just
spot on as you can get.
So yeah, questioning Jason's right. It's going to be hard to recast this movie because most of these people, the people that played the parts of these characters, are burned into our brain. But I do like Brad Pitt as Bert. Bert's a slave driver. She tells the guys, "Hey, it hurts to be dead, and the only thing that makes us feel better is eating brains." This is the zombie movie, Tim, I think, that established, brains and all that. So these guys come in and tell them, blah, blah, blah.
Are you serious? Is this the first zombie movie where they specifically eat brains?
I think so. And there are some dramatic moments in this movie. Like you called this scene right here, and this is the last video clip we have, but you called this scene right here. You're like, this is awesome. And I had to trim it down because you can't do like a 30-minute scene on a 30-second scene on YouTube. But right here, this is, Freddie goes nuts. Frank slips out the chapel and takes care of himself. Which was always this scene.
This was great. This was a great scene. Because before that, they do the thing where he takes his wedding ring off and puts it on the on-off switch.
Yeah,
and it's super serious. It's deep. It's good, and the movie's able to do that. It can go from stupid to jumping into that, and it doesn't. It's not jarring or anything.
Mm-mm. And like I said, this is not like a whole review of this movie. The ending of this movie is like crazy because
the ending is great. I was blown away by how, because dude, all the horror movies we've done for the 31 Days of Horror coming up in a few months, ATG and AT. I can plug. The endings almost always suck because it's just everyone's together and it's we made it and it's the feel good thing and nothing happens. And you might every once in a while there's the, oh God, there's another critter egg, or the hand comes out of the ground, something's not dead. It's not what happened in this movie.
No,
not the way it went down.
They finally call the number on the tanks, and it leads to, the general answering the phone, and he figures out, hey, these things are loose. They can't be killed. So the backup plan is to fire off a little nuke over there.
And it's boom, boom, boom. It's like phone call. Thanks for the call. Got you covered. Send in the plane. Movie's over.
Yeah.
They give you the count on how many people died and roll the credits.
It
was great. It was
pretty
great.
much say lightning in a bottle, because I don't think you can make a movie that ridiculous again and have people take it as seriously as people do. Like I said, I think they had a perfect balance of humor and horror and atmosphere. And I think the characters added a lot to that. The ridiculous characters were not so ridiculous that you didn't root for them. There was nobody in this movie you were like, man, I hope that person gets killed. Even Suicide, when he gets his head bit, because all he does is say the F word, you still are like, man, he got killed. What's going on? Even the chick that got naked and danced, you're like, oh, she's stupid running around out there naked, but you don't want her to die. So, I mean, some of these characters don't have a paragraph worth of dialogue, but you remember them, like Scuzz and like Chuck. Chuck's treated like crap through that movie, but he's one of the ones that lives at the end of it. But it's a really good movie. It's a movie
they all die, right? At the end?
They all died. Yeah, absolutely. Like Part 2 is one of the worst sequels to a really good movie that you could have.
Didn't
And
know there was part 2.
and there's a part 3 and a part 4 and a part 5 that they made in the
I
90s.
bet around part 5 it got good again.
That's when it circled back and got really good again. So that's going to do it. Tim, thank you for being here for over 56 people. And I'll always bring the number up because it's pretty awesome, because I check over here to the side and it says YouTube has 11 people here, but I'm checking the command center here and it's almost 60.
I'm going to have to be more prepared if we do this again, because I was expecting just to BS for about 5 people. So
no, you got to be.
We're going to have to get professional. I think we've hit big time.
Big time status.
I think this is it.
So I guess from leaving here tonight, the one thing I can tell you, because Tim didn't watch it, give Beverly Hills Cop 4 a chance. I really enjoyed it. And like I said, I'm going to go watch some videos now to see what people are griping about. It all works. The daughter doesn't outshine him. She's there just enough. The characters are respected. Like I said, Rosewood, I just wish he would have been more like Rosewood. When they're riding in the car, he's just like, you just don't know Axel. You just don't know Axel. All right. So, yeah, go watch that. And like I said, today's 40 years for Return of the Living Dead. We've always got to talk about Return of the Living Dead.
If you haven't seen that movie, you absolutely need to watch it.
I think Nick Push brought up to me and made me feel bad today. He said, Ronnie, are you going to do a show where you tell us all 31 movies you guys are going to do in October? And I said, yes, Nick, I am. Did I say Nick or Tim?
You said Nick.
Okay. So I said, yes, Nick, I am, as soon as I finish the list. So I've got to finish the 31 days list. Not only are we doing 31 horror movie reviews in October, but we're also going to give like 6 watch-alongs for the people that are paid channel members. So extra content for you. 6 right now. It may actually ramp up to 8. And, we're toying with the idea of doing a little bit more live content in October.
I do request to continue the Critters movies. We've got 1 and 2 down. I think we need to get them.
I will add Critters 3 to the list and see if Boz wants to watch it with us. He bailed out after 1. But hopefully everybody has a good 4th of July. Tim, what are your plans for tomorrow?
Big family event. Everyone's going to show up and do the barbecue.
What do y'all have at the barbecue?
Oh, look. So I'm terrible at a barbecue because I will get 1 burger and 1 hot dog, and then I'm done. Like I can't just like pig out. So
if you feel like talking in the chat real quick, what is the ideal 4th of July barbecue or 4th of July food that you can't go without? All right. Tomorrow, Tim, it's going to be hot dogs, hamburgers. We're going to keep it simple.
You didn't do the ribs.
I'm not. Well, if I get there tomorrow and ribs are on sale,
that's like I thought that was your thing. You were in charge of the ribs. You do the ribs for your family.
No, I'm not. No. Like, I'm the worst cook in the family. Like, Blake's a better cook than me, and brother-in-law's
all the
better
time.
cook. Well, that doesn't mean everybody's going to like them. I mean, I can eat anything I cook. So there you go. Anyway,
tails on it, baby.
It's 10 o'clock, man. Let's go to bed. Thank you for everybody that showed up. We really appreciate it. It means a lot that you support the channel. Tim, who I messaged out of the blue and, begged him to come on. Ryan Underwood, real quick, says he's a steak and baked potato guy every single
day. We get it, Ryan. You're jacked. I can see that. I don't need to know about all your proteins and carbohydrates. I need
that's a real man, Tim.
I got to get on some gear.
You think he's on gear?
No, I have to get on some gear.
I think he's on gear.
I feel so.
Look at the definition in those.
My inferiority complex is just in overdrive right now. We got to go to bed. This is terrible.
All right, for Tim, I'm Ronnie. Thanks for the memories. We'll see you later.